Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today we're actually talking about cyber insurance because cyber insurance is facing a crisis moment. Now here's what's going on. This is coming from Cyberscoop. I thought it was actually really interesting, so here we go. Two separate CEOs of major insurance giants remarked in recent weeks that a considerable jump in cyber insurance premium prices, this is AIG's chief executive, said that rates increased by 40% for its clients, while Chubb's CEO said that the company was charging more as well. And rather than welcoming this trend, Chubb CEO Evan Greenberg offered a warning. Those price increases, he said, still don't reflect the grave risk that a catastrophic cyber event poses. And I quote, "That is not addressing by itself the fundamental issue." Now, those are just two of the points of how in the past year, the evolution of ransomware has radically altered the landscape of cyber insurance, according to analysts inside and outside of the industry. Now, cyber insurance covers a range of ransomware-related costs like extortion demands, remediation efforts, and other losses, but ransomware now accounts for 75% of all cyber insurance claims. That's up from 55% just 5 years ago in 2016. That's according to credit rating agency AM Best. Now, the percentage increase in claims is outpacing that of premiums, said a June report which concluded, and I quote, "The prospects for the cyber insurance market are grim." Now, Fitch Ratings in April found that the ratio of losses to premiums was at 73% last year, jeopardizing the actual profitability of the industry. And if they're not profitable, why be in business? That's a concern. Now, a lack of profitability could lead to yet more premium increases, insurers fleeing the cyber insurance market, or policyholders receiving more limited coverage. Problems in cyber insurance, the marketplace, stand to limit its ability to be a force for effective data protection techniques in a wider private sector as clients look to insurers for guidance on specific security tools or measures. And if you've ever signed up for cyber insurance policy, you know they ask you an ever-growing, and it seems to get longer every time I get asked by a client to help out with one of these things, an ever-growing longer list of essentially standards that you need to meet as we in the cyber security, cyber defense industry start developing new techniques and new products. Cyber insurance is following along, wanting you to get those. Now, I quote Michael Phillips, Chief Claims Officer for Resilience, quote, "For the cyber insurance market, we are in the very first and most pivotal challenge we have ever had. This is our crisis moment." Now, there's less agreement about what could actually turn things around, though. Some changes are underway with insurance carriers imposing stricter cybersecurity safeguards for policyholders or reducing coverage limits. Such requirements could also help businesses bolster their defenses, but also make it harder for others to meet the threshold and therefore leave them without any kind of coverage. And reduced coverage limits basically mean higher costs for ransomware victims. This is something that I talk about on stage when people ask me about cyber insurance, and I don't recommend any one brand or the other. The definition is always in the details of what they will or will not cover, but I can't tell you how many times I've seen cyber insurance just pull a company out of the fire, or help them survive what would have been an unsurvivable event. So there you go. Now, cyber insurance is obviously in high demand. I do a breaches of the week that is video that is completely just beyond long. It's way longer than it should. So cyber insurance clearly is in high demand, and that's a condition that could keep the industry from veering into disaster. Client take-up rate, or proportion of existing clients opting for cyber coverage, rose 46% in 2020, and that's according to the U.S.'s own Government Accountability Office. Now, even before the rise of ransomware, though, many analysts maintain that cyber insurance was particularly difficult due to the absence of historical data that complicated the risk forecasting the industry, or the risk forecasting that the industry typically uses in order to set its prices. That issue has become severe, even though that 7 major insurers in June basically formed their own company called Accuvu, which combines all of their data and analysis so that they understand essentially how they should be setting prices that are appropriate to the consumer, but also to their profitability. And there's going to have to be a balance there. The question I have is, will Accuvu eventually be looked at some kind of monopoly or rate fixing issue, which I think is something that basically they're kicking the can down the road right now as they're trying to figure this out. As of right now, though, rates are rising considerably as ransomware attacks increase. For example, one North Carolina school board basically approved a $22,000 annual cyber liability insurance, and that was a jump from their previous year of $6,600, 235% jump. It's obviously huge. There are other factors that make the industry picture also rather negative as well. AM Best also noted that an earthquake insurer, for example, can diversify their portfolio by offering insurance in different geographical regions. You might not live basically where somebody else needs earthquake insurance. I don't need earthquake insurance where I live, but I know like people in California do, but we might have the same insurer. That is spreading out that risk in the sense that I'm not also going to be claiming earthquake insurance. If the entire country did, it would be a different story. But cyber risk has no boundaries, and that was their point. And the losses right now are quote unquote crazy, according to Fred Eslami, a senior financial analyst at AM Best. So some contend that the cyber insurance industry at least partly has itself to blame for the growing expense it's incurring from ransomware payments. Paying the attackers keeps basically the crime in business, ensuring future attacks, and it can have secondary effects too, on the businesses. We also have to include cryptocurrency. When it's unregulated and essentially untraceable, it's very difficult to basically regulate that in the sense that, like, I'm not ransoming you and say, yeah, send it to my Chase account over there, which is tagged to me and my social security number and all of that. There's a lot of contributing factors here, but with just the vast increase that we've seen in cyber attacks, and we're no different. We get calls all the time saying, I've never worked with you. I don't know who you are. I got referred to you, or I saw your TED Talk or one of these videos, or I've listened to your radio show, and we just got hit with a ransom demand. What do we do? And a lot of organizations really don't have any idea. And the ones that get cyber insurance, I think, start to have a better understanding of, okay, well, our cyber insurance company wants us to do these 20 different things so that we get the best rates and the best premiums, which means we're enabling things like multi-factor authentication and encryption and getting actual good firewalls and antivirus and all these kinds of things. But here's the thing. We continue to see this rise, and every week as I am reporting on data breaches, overwhelmingly it's one of two things. Either somebody misconfigured something or didn't patch it so it's vulnerable, but overwhelmingly it's a ransomware attack. And as we track ransomware gangs here, they are ever always adding to their lists of who they've hit and how they are ransoming out. Now, a lot of organizations also don't realize that you can negotiate ransoms down. That $5 million ransom may actually end up costing you around $1 million, and that's something that oftentimes you don't understand. And if you have cyber liability insurance, they will bring in organizations or people like me to go ahead and negotiate those things down as we go to the dark web and start basically talking to the attacker. So there's a lot that goes into that. I highly recommend cyber insurance for everybody if you have some kind of company, because you never know when that's going to hit, and oftentimes it's human error. It's just plain old, I shouldn't have clicked the link and I did, and here we are. I will also say this too, and this is one of the things that the Federal Trade Commission here in the United States needs to address, and that is at the end of the Trump administration, the FTC basically came out and said, if you are a cyber insurance company and you determine that the attacker that hit the American business is from an adversarial country, think Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, etc., you cannot pay the liability insurance. So if we get hit with North Korean hackers and they basically say, hey, you owe us $5 million, your cyber and liability insurance will basically say, well, they're from North Korea, so you're on your own. And I think that's really an important distinction to make, and I think that's something that needs to be undone. There are reasons why you pay ransomware. The default recommendation always is not to pay the ransom. That's usually my default recommendation as well. But with double extortion, meaning they've copied all of that out, not paying that could be a life-ending event when all of your massive clients, that which keeps you in business, gets all of their data dumped out there, and then they basically fire you. I'm not going to work with you if you dumped my data out into the public. And do you think their competitors are going to want to work with you as they are currently and actively throwing you under the bus for their data breach? There's a lot of small firms out there. The big players know this, and so they don't have to be liable for your bad choices, so they're not going to be. And I think that's something that we really need to understand here. But we are coming, I think, to a reckoning in cyber insurance. It's something that we need, but if we don't get a handle on these things and ransomware continues to increase and these payments continue to increase and everything else, I don't see how they can stay in business long term. I mean, at some point, you're going to exhaust the population of who's going to buy your cyber liability insurance, and then all you're doing is insuring targets. And I think that's something that we don't really talk about, and so that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please stay private and get cyber insurance if you own a business. Take care.